Actually, lagoons are highly productive ecosystem. Due to its high level of productivity, a lot of kind of community dependence and other users they depend on it. So it is prone to kind of unsustainable use and degradation. So in case of Chilika, it was in a bad shape because of change in the ecological characters due to change in the land use pattern in the upstream, and at the same time the connectivity with the sea was restricted due to the coastal processes. So this resulted in more and more unsustainable use of the resource because 0.2 million local community depend on it. When the production went down, so it is a vicious circle. So kind of it resulted in more and more unsustainable use. So it was included in the Monterey Record in 1993 due to change in the ecological character. So Chilika Development Authority took the challenge of restoration of the lake. So we adopted a kind of ecosystem approach. Without depending completely on the scientific evidences and kind of to trace the root cause of the degradation, we also did a lot of local consultation, and amazingly we found that the kind of the findings from the modeling and the views of the local community was almost kind of perfectly matching. So in 2000 we did a bold hydrological intervention. After that, the system started, kind of improving, and there was, kind of not only the biodiversity ameliorated, but the lake productivity also went up, and there was coming back of the species, which is a evidence of, good ecological restoration, and by 2002, the fish production went up by about 7 times, and there was an increase in the dolphin population, which is indicator species, and the expansion of the seagrass meadows.
So you're talking about these positive benefits or positive results out of interventions. So I'd like to understand from you what specific interventions you're talking about.
Yeah, actually, as I mentioned, the change in the ecological character was due to basically the communication with the sea was restricted. The poor communication resulted in kind of loss of biodiversity, because many species, about 85% species of the lake, they maintain a phased life cycle, part in the lagoon and part in the sea. So because of poor communication, the breeding migration was not complete, and the auto recruitment from the sea to the lagoon, because lagoon are very dynamic ecosystem, so they need, they're like we normally call it their living ecosystem, in the sense every tidal cycle the fresh oxygenated water gets into the lagoon, then during the ebbing its detritus gets out. So that is one of the reason we try to restore the hydrological regime of the lagoon, so that in fact improved the lake ecosystem or the lagoon ecosystem as a whole.
As a chief of the development authority, you would be able to look at the bigger picture. So when now that you've successfully, and congratulations on that, you've been successfully able to restore the biodiversity to a very decent level, but if the communities are heavily depending on it, then do you think it's equally important to seek alternative dependence for the communities, so that the pressure, because the population is also increasing, the pressure on biodiversity does not limitlessly keep increasing?
Yeah, actually, what we're trying to do, to our good luck, since the productivity increased, so the kind of trust and faith of the people on the lagoon ecosystem is re-established. So now we are practicing, kind of rather promoting the responsible fishery, like some of the destructive fishery practices are being eliminated. It's a self-initiated discipline, I would say. At the same time, we are also empowering them through institution building, like the networking of the primary fishermen cooperative society, and also because there is an increase in the population of rubber dolphin and the migratory bird, about 0.2 million migratory birds are visiting the lake. So as a viable alternate source of livelihood, dolphin watching, the bird watching are now adopted by these fishes. So what has happened, more than 20 villages, they have adopted the dolphin watching as one of the viable source of alternate source of livelihood. So we are doing the capacity building, providing them with the software like the brochure, then the protocols. So we are finding that they are earning much better, kind of amount than what they used to do from fishing, and it's also reducing the pressure on the lake fishery.
So, apart from this responsibility, you have also been actively involved in the marine and coastal regions research as far as India is concerned, and there has not been much research done in the past, as far as climate change impacts and biodiversity issues are concerned along the coast. So, what has been the research so far, and tell us more about the research scope in this area.
Right, as I already mentioned, the lagoon are very sensitive ecosystem, so they need to be, kind of cutting edge science need to be also put into practice for monitoring, and they act as an interface between the landscape and the seascape. So what we've tried to do under the integrated coastal zone management project, fortunately I'm also looking after that project for Odisha. So we are developing Chilika Lagoon as a role model where, kind of its entire ecosystem are connected. So after the restoration of the Chilika Lagoon, we are finding that the coastal water, there is also increase in the production of the fish, and the fishermen, they are getting, those who depend on the coastal fishery, they are getting better product. So we are trying to develop a holistic model of integrated coastal zone management, which is also kind of the it also kind of demonstrates how the conservation of biodiversity can increase the ecosystem services and in turn increase the livelihood of the local community. So it garners the conservation kind of ethos in them. So once they see that by protecting a system they are benefited, so that kind of the connecting science to the livelihood and the social science is very important for sustainability.
So, my final question: the problem of common property resources. How acute have you experienced such a problem in a lagoon area like Chilika?
Right, that's a wonderful question. In fact, one of the reasons why the lake ecosystem was degrading is that it's a open use of the common property resources. So now, what we're trying to do, we call it a participatory research, in the sense many a times our research, kind of the scientists never interact with the local community. So we found through our maybe 12 years experience, we found that many of the rich experience like the traditional regulatory mechanism or managing the resource have got very good sound element which are not kind of documented in the peer reviewed scientific journal. But when the scientific studies and the local knowledge can be blended, it would be a really the most practical and sustainable solution. So we are trying to do that. Now all the scientific studies, like from lake monitoring up to the productivity study, maximum sustainable yield, everything, we try to, whenever we go for these kind of scientific studies, we try to explain it to the local community. So we've created a kind of element of trust between the scientist and the scientific studies and this local community and their knowledge.